We're better than anyone. I mean, we do it the most, but we're better at that than everyone else that does it. So.
Well, it's because.
Are we live?
Yep.
Oh.
Of course we are. Everybody, welcome.
Of course we are.
Yes.
Duh.
Episode 7 of TECHnicality. I missed you guys last week. I'm glad to see you again with Jordan Boyd, Joanne Yao. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
The team is back.
Yes, I missed you.
Say that, but yeah, we missed you too. I missed you too.
Well, you have to say that when someone says I miss you, and they look you in the eyes like I missed you.
Yeah, and you gotta say it, or else they're like, "What? You don't actually? You liked interviewing that other person more than doing the pod?" I'm just kidding. It was good. We had a good conversation. I think you watched it.
I did.
Dr. Burchuk, she's got a cool, outlook on health.
Yes.
And on nutrition, I guess specifically. I shouldn't generalize, but with the low carb, high fat diet, which I've watched the pod a few times now just because I'm trying to learn from it, right? Because when you're in the moment, you're not always listening, right? So sometimes I have to listen back and I go, oh yeah, that's a great point that Joanne made.
Right.
But I've already started trying to like actively reduce things that she was like, don't do this, don't do that. I don't know about you, but I've been trying. It's hard though.
I mean, the low carb, high fat was very counterintuitive for me. Like Dr. Burchuk, I was a calorie counter at one point. And then to introduce and be comfortable with the concept of high fat, it was just counterintuitive. So I did try it, and I can't say it was 100% because of the podcast, but just because, of course, it was St. Patrick's Day this weekend and my kid's birthday party. So, I mean, high fat was just going to be part of the diet anyway.
Yeah, I got to imagine having a kid is super tricky. With that stuff. But, what it made me think is, one, I had, I don't know, probably 5 or 10 follow-up questions from people that saw it and were like, oh, what about this? Like, you should have her on again. So we should definitely have her on again when you're available. Yeah. And you could even maybe bring up some of the, like, parental kind of, because, again, that's a totally different thing. Like, what are you just not supposed to have cake and pizza and...
That's the tough part.
It's tricky.
Because all of the stuff that you're not supposed to give kids is exactly the easiest thing to get your hands on.
It's cheaper.
Yeah. And I mean, after working a 12-hour day and I pick up my kid and she's tired and I'm tired, and we could go grocery shopping, or I could just grab something quick and feed her. What is there? I mean, honestly, what is there that's healthy and kid-friendly? I don't know if it's just not a marketable business model, but it's just really not out there.
Yeah, I think if you have more time and you like are super good at cooking, I think you can disguise things for kids. But like it I think it comes more down to time. I think it exists. There's food obviously out there that you can make that's better for them than processed stuff.
Right.
Not that that's what you're replacing, but stuff with. But you know what I mean? Like I feel like it's for you specifically. Right. I feel like it's more of a time thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we do what we can with what we got as a parent. So, but how was your St. Patrick's Day, by the way? I mean, it's no secret that you have Irish in your blood. So I must.
Why is it not a secret, Joanne? Is it because of my ginger beard? Is that?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. It is pretty obvious. My last name is Boyd, and I have a ginger beard, and I'm really tall though. I feel like Irish people aren't super tall. Some kind of Nordic blood slipped in there, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Like some Viking, like the guy from the mountain that's who I want to be more like.
Jordan Thor Boyd, is that your full name?
It's got a ring to it.
I give it to you.
I mean, it was good. We went to that event on Thursday.
Yep.
Lawyer event.
Yes.
Which was fun.
That was fun.
I love seeing all your friends. They're always so nice.
And lawyers.
They're all like, how did you meet all the most beautiful and smart female lawyers in the city? Like it's this weird thing. And so I like go to these events and I'm like, all the people are like, who's this idiot with all these smart women? And I just stand there and try to look as good as I can to not feel as dumb as I am in that circle.
Oh, you flatter. But my friends do love you as well. You're very personable, chit-chattable. And, one of the things that I think as lawyers, when we go out to these functions, sometimes people who are non-lawyers feel like lawyers are not very approachable people, which I think is unfortunate, because I've been in situations where I can chat people up in a networking function, but the moment I give them my card or tell them I'm a lawyer, then suddenly they freeze up and they use really big words and long words. And I want to just say, listen, let's chill out. Let's rewind back to 3 minutes ago, and just whoever that guy or gal was, that was the cool person. Let's just keep talking. But also I think it's incumbent on lawyers in general to be approachable and just be general, non-stereotypical lawyers. But I'm glad you can hold your own with all of us, that we don't intimidate as much as we try.
None of you guys make me feel insecure, which is great. But you're all very beautiful and very wise. So
thank you. Thanks for joining us.
I just feel like I'm surrounded by power when I'm with you guys. So way to go on that.
Well, thank you.
You made it. Or did I make it? I think I made it.
That could be.
Either way, we're going to have more of these things. We're going to have salons at some point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, do you want to explain? Because I had to personally Google.
Not the hair kind.
That's the thing, is I had to Google salons when you first introduced that concept. So for our audience's benefit, how about you break that down? What?
I don't know the exact textbook, but I know it's like a medieval. It started in the medieval times, I think, which I love medieval stuff. Started in the medieval times, and it's just like a gathering of minds. So you bring together people from many different backgrounds and different fields, and it's instead of just having a room full of lawyers, you have a lawyer and a personal trainer and a person who works with the city and a person who's an artist. And so you bring all these different minds together and you just kind of think, and it's more of a collaboration and thinking and coming up with ideas, and they called it salons.
Now, the part of the Wikipedia page that I read about salons.
Yeah, you kind of honed in on one little section.
The fact that there's going to be an alpha female just kind of sprawled out.
Okay.
Yeah, on furniture of some sort, and everyone just kind of surrounds her and they all discuss that. So I don't know. Maybe we could, take names for whoever that certain person might want to be. Just sprawl it on the sofa. I don't know.
Should I hire a young Greek man to fan?
No.
Okay.
No.
Grapes? No. Okay.
We don't need to do that. No.
But
just the attention itself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I don't want to make this.
Keep you in mind.
I don't want to make this too cost ineffective. This has got to be a feasible endeavor for you.
I might start charging for it.
Oh.
Yeah. That's how curated it's going to be. And the food, all cooked by me. It's going to be gourmet level, I'm going to go to the butcher. I'm going to I'm not going to cheap out.
You promised some more cooking adventures you promised that to Dr. Burchuk, that you were going to try doing that more. Have you made those efforts since you had the podcast with her last week?
Cooking
on your better, eating better.
Yeah, so I've started reducing a lot more of the starch, because I'm I love starch, and so even if I'm doing salmon, I'll still do a rice and stuff. So I've just started being just grab another veggie, just grab salad, a veggie, and the meat. You don't have to have that rice, you don't have to have that potato.
Yeah,
you kind of want it. We had ribs. I had pressure cooker ribs this weekend with my sister and my mom. And you have a pressure cooker
in your house?
I have a pressure cooker, an Instant Pot. People have probably heard of the Instant Pot. It's the greatest. It's it was a meme for a while. Everyone had them, or they still. I don't know. It's still a thing. But made pressure cooker ribs, and everyone was like, "Oh yeah, potatoes." And I was like, "Oh, actually, I didn't get potatoes." So I got Caesar salad and broccoli and carrots with ribs, and it was friggin'. Still got starch in there, and just not as much as the taters. And I didn't miss the potatoes either.
Right.
So thanks, Dr. Burchuk.
Yes, thank you very much. We hope to have you back on again.
Yes.
All right, so
what are we talking about today?
Let's dive headfirst into this. So one of the things that I really want to talk about.
Zane, are we good with the camera? Sorry, quickly. Okay, just making sure we're having a little camera difficulty, but yeah.
Is there going to be a can of paint dumped on me or something? Or am I going to get slimed?
Just don't look directly up at the ceiling, and the slime won't pour in your eyes.
Okay. I want to talk about this college bribery scandal. Yeah. And let me put it this way. Okay, I've gone through school, like a lot of school.
You have.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're not talking about like the high school, and then there's undergrad, and then there's the law school, and now I'm doing my postgrad. Done a lot of school. And quite honestly, if this story doesn't bother someone like me who's done a lot of school, I don't really know why it's bothering everybody. I get that there are criminal charges involved for conspiracy, and I get that people are upset because they feel like, you know, these wealthy kids are taking a spot that a kid who has earned their way to the top should have gotten. But I feel like the bigger underlying problem is that if people want to access education, that they're not getting that access. If there is that one kid who should have gotten in, well, maybe he should have gotten in. I mean, let's not confuse the issues. Is this a nepotism issue, or is it we don't have enough access to education if people choose to go? And then on a tertiary level, why do we put so much importance on Ivy League schools? Does that automatically guarantee success? I don't think so. Your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I have a few thoughts on this. There's a couple. So the first general thought is that I think this is the FBI trying to like kind of be like, hey, America, like we also go after rich Democrat people too, right before they're about to dump on Trump.
Yeah, but come on, guys. I know I'm not.
It's so convenient though. The timing is so convenient. It
is.
Right before Mueller's going to put out this event. And then what do people go? They go, oh, wow, well, maybe the FBI is believable because, wow, they just took down a bunch of Democrats in a scandal.
Right.
So, I mean, they don't just go after Republicans and good for them for taking and making it fair for Americans. It just felt like.
So you see a political motive behind it. You see, this is interesting. I haven't seen that.
Come on.
I didn't see that angle of it, but that's interesting that.
For sure. So that's one side of it. As soon as it came out, I thought, this is convenient timing for them to just drop this right before they're like supposedly going to drop a bunch of Mueller stuff. Anyways, the other thought though is that it's like a microcosm of like how society works.
Explain.
Wealthy people get ahead.
Yeah. Why is that a surprise?
That's not a surprise.
No.
And I don't think, all I could think was as soon as they've removed the person who took the bribes, they'll just put in a new one.
Sure.
Right. I mean, they'll find another. It's not like, oh, everyone's like, oh no, now we're not going to do this anymore. Mm-hmm. People are still going to do it.
Well, that's the thing is it's the whole wealthy people giving their kids an advantage extends way beyond getting into an Ivy League school. It happens at every level of school. It happens beyond schools.
And by the way, for them, it's more of a like keeping up thing than like oh, thank gosh, our kid got to it's like, oh, your kid didn't go to Harvard. Like it's almost more of a perception thing than it is about the education itself.
Right. Well, and I think one of the, I saw some articles where there was consideration that these kids who got in this way would have their degrees canceled or revoked or nullified. But
that's dumb.
Well, the thing is, if they had gotten through a college program and earned it, and I'm just superficially agreeing that, okay, they've been granted a degree, what's the basis then to revoke it? Something that they have now earned. Like the issue isn't whether they earned their way in.
The revoking is about like the moral, the left, the social justice warrior. We have to take them down. Outrage.
But in some instances, I've heard the media outlets say that these kids sometimes didn't even know. And I mean, when you're a wealthy kid, sometimes you.
Let's think about that for a second.
These
dumb ass kids.
They might not be dumb just because maybe
but they had to pay their way in to get to like Stanford.
But maybe they're the hairline, borderline. Could have made it.
I think they're dumb, and we can all just be like, it's okay. They're dumb. Rich people have dumb kids too. Unfortunately, for rich people, they have dumb kids sometimes, and those dumb kids make them look dumb. They make the parent look dumb, or the parent thinks they make them look dumb. Right. So. Got to get them into the same thing, and then it makes the parent look like, wow, you must have raised great kids. It's all perception, right?
And that's the thing. In my opinion, because of the fact that perception is big in this, I think the public humiliation aspect of this is probably more of a punishment than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Because people who do this to be able to brag about where their kids have gotten into, even if they didn't legitimately get in, is just like publicly shame them. And I know this is bordering on the, let's not bully others thing, but
Mm-hmm.
if it's positive perception that they want, then throw a negative light on this bad behavior. And I mean, does Lori Loughlin really need to go to jail because she bribed somebody to get her kid into school? Is that a criminal?
For me, I felt like good for Lori Loughlin for like gaming the system, like for finding someone who would take her money and letting her kid. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, oh yeah, the FBI happened to get, which, it's like Kraft getting caught up in the sex scandal with the prostitutes because he happened to be at this place where they were doing a sting.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. They like the FBI, and I think the FBI, this is why the FBI collects everything from everyone, right? Because then they can just pick and choose and be like, oh, optically, this scandal would look really good for us because we could come in. We know that they're buying their way into these schools. Everyone knows that, right?
Yeah.
Here's the other thing I thought. All it takes is like one angry Asian mom whose daughter didn't get into Stanford to be like, Laura Laughlin's kid got into fucking Stanford? I'm calling the FBI. Like, I can literally picture you being like, hi, yeah, I don't think it's possible that she could have gotten into Stanford. And the FBI being like, I mean, we can look at it, but it like... And then they look and they're like, oh, God, Yao was right. Like, this white girl did not deserve to be in here. And then it just opens up this whole, like, racketeering charge. Anyways, I was, like, picturing that mom, too, just being like, Laughlin, that stupid Laughlin girl got in? Like, and little Becky Yao didn't get in? Like, this is not okay. Anyways, I was just like picturing that. Okay, wait, can I show you something? So part of the scandal, right, is that these parents were having their children photoshopped into. Yeah. So I did that
sporting, what
for
do you mean
myself.
You did
I'm gonna try to fool you into photos of me as an athlete, right, and see if you can tell if it's me or not. And I'm gonna put these up on the screen for people as I show them to you. So this first one, I don't know if you'll be able to tell which one I am in the photo. But I put a couple up here just as an example of like what. So there's me on a professional rowing team. This is me doing an Olympic pole vault. Now you notice I did use the same face for every, but I mean, how creative were these parents? Here's another one that I mean, you can barely tell I'm in this one. There's so many people. What? I mean, there's.
Oh my God.
I thought that was a good one. And then
you
last but not least,
in first place.
This one's like, it's maybe a little more obvious because the tan's slightly different on my face. But if I was a professional swimmer.
No, it's totally you. But I can't even spot the fake.
As you can tell, I mean, this took me 5 minutes. Like, I could probably get into friggin' Harvard with this, like some of these photos.
Wait,
Come on.
Didn't you graduate from Harvard?
What? Is this some kind of inside joke? What?
I thought. No? Okay, well,
I got a little thing from Cornell, but, who's...
Honorary
we're
degree.
Not bragging about our... I'm just kidding. It was not worth bragging about. Anyways, those were some of my attempts at, if I decide I want to do an MBA at Harvard or Stanford, I can, ship them those photos. And I heard that's all you have to do. You just have to Photoshop your face onto an athlete and cha-ching.
And you're
admission.
In. Yeah, well, I mean, I may not be in college admissions on any boards of that sort, but you look like you are deserving of an athletic scholarship. Those are pretty compelling photographs.
And I play 4 different sports.
Oh, I did notice that. You're
right?
Well-rounded.
I'm well-rounded.
And smart, obviously.
Obviously smart.
From a good vintage of,
wealthy parents, hopefully, right? I mean.
Right.
Anyways. Well, legal implications are... the
criminal
they're not
side
going to go to jail, are they?
That's the thing. Is the biggest side is the legal side is the
rich people jail.
And I'm just kind of thinking, this is not jail worthy. Come on, and
Wouldn't you get more mad at the person who took the money from her?
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
why do we go
they have
after
all
the
these. They
mom?
they
Like, I
are
don't know.
gone after, but again, here's
But I
another
don't-
angle that I think
never
people
heard
are
their names.
forgetting. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
there was a Yale soccer coach, I believe,
Mm.
and there was a women's basketball coach somewhere else, and I'll have to fact check all these, but there were some coaches involved.
I'm just saying, you don't hear their names like you hear these celebrities and stuff.
But the fact of the matter is that somehow in the college recruitment system, they're giving these people that kind of power to make these determinations, and it doesn't sound like that there's any accountability for it. So,
do you want to know my favorite one that I think you'll appreciate very much?
What's that?
Is the people who got someone at the SAT center to adjust the grades. That's ballin'. Come on.
Right.
That's ballin'. To take it from like a 480 to like a 1410 or some crazy number.
Right. Well,
Don't you wish you had that?
I do. It's right
yeah,
up
you
here.
have the real version. Lucky you. Some of us don't. Some of us have to find a poor janitor person at the SAT training center thing and like convince them to sneak in after hours and erase all the. How do they even do that? I mean, that's like technically difficult. How many people take the SATs?
Oh, at least
Millions?
Thousands. I don't even.
There's
know.
got to be, because
Well-
they come from all over the world trying to get into the U.S., right? And you have to take your SATs. Is that not how you get into the U.S.?
I don't know.
American school? You have to take an SAT?
I didn't do college admissions in the state. I did.
Didn't you do
No, I
university
did
in
law
the
school.
States?
No, I did university here at U of C.
Was your LSAT American?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's
Well,
another
LSAT's
one.
for everybody. It's like
Right.
everybody. Yeah.
I wonder if you can get your LSAT changed. Probably harder because it's lawyers and they're all about law.
Well, you know what's crazy is there is one medical board exam, and my reliable source is Facebook. So let's just like put an asterisk next to that.
No, I'm
I
just
know.
kidding.
I know.
They have real news on Facebook. Let's
But
not
I
put them on Facebook.
actually asked one other doctor about this, and she seems to have confirmed it, but it's like she didn't want to confirm it because it was that controversial. So there is some medical board exam that is so strict that women are not allowed to bring tampons to the exam, that if they sit for this exam, which must be hours long, that they're worried about bringing, I guess it's sanitary napkins or pads, or I don't even know what they're called, the Diva Cup,
We don't have to get into it.
any of those kinds of things. Just talking about female monthly cycles.
I don't have a daughter yet, so I'm
Make you
okay on
uncomfortable.
that, you know. At some point I will, but I'm still not quite there yet.
But still, like, I mean, to think about how stringent that exam protocol is,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, you can't even bring tampons in. That's insane. And here I am thinking that these would-be doctors or about to be board certified doctors, they're smart enough that if they wanted to send a message, they would synchronize their heaviest flow day for exam day and just sit it out and just let it happen, because that's the way. And then you know what? Messed up the chair, messed up the floor. Meh.
Oh, okay.
I'm just burning these jeans. It's okay. This is not the topic you wanted
Not
to get
really,
into.
no. But yeah, no, I agree. They could do that, and but yeah, no, that is stringent.
Yeah.
And I think again, the moral of the story is, rich people are always going to have more opportunity.
Agreed.
And you know what you should do instead of getting mad about it? Live with it.
No, you joke
Live
about
with
that.
it.
You're
you
being
broke, whatever person, not you, but people that are broke that are mad about this.
But that's
That's how society works.
that's just it.
Okay.
Is that
And there's probably lots of deals where they get into university without having to pay money, because
Sure.
mommy and daddy are friends with. Like, I see that all the time.
right? And that's the thing, is that if the concept is that to have this degree from a prestigious university is going to guarantee you success in life, that's clearly not the case. I see some very, very, very talented, very educated people. They do the basic in education and they survive on their wits, their wherewithal, entrepreneurial spirit, their ability to network with people and shake hands and make a deal happen. A lot of times that strength is worth way more than any piece of paper you can hang on the wall. And some people with many legitimately like nice pieces of paper hanging on the wall from very expensive schools, they struggle. Just because you knock it out of the park in school does not translate to how are you going to contribute to society, be effective, an effective communicator, collaborator, innovator. So, I mean, that's just, to me, it's just one measure of who a person is and how they contribute to the community. I'm not bothered by the fact that, you know, wealthy parents paid their kids way in. I really am not.
Yeah.
I wouldn't stoop to that level either, but yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't stoop to that level, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, what do you expect? And again, the timing with the Mueller stuff, come on, this is totally just a optical illusion to make people go like, oh yeah, look over here, there, you know. Which
is kind of a very weak way to get in the news, because it doesn't strike a chord with people in you, like you and I. It just doesn't strike a chord with us.
That's exactly, like, who do you think it strikes a chord with? Lower educated people, probably, right? It's not anyone who went to Stanford or Harvard isn't like, oh, darn. No, it's like people that like went to some crappy, oh, that's not fair.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's people who don't have that benefit in life. Not saying we have that benefit in life. Yeah. We may now because of what we've worked hard for ourselves.
Sure.
Right? But it's people that don't have that benefit in life that are like, that's not fair.
Well, I think I think it's also about the people who can see beyond, you know, all the degrees behind your name and see your value as a person. That's
I think the funniest part of the story of the whole thing was the people that paid a bunch of money to get into like USC. And I was like, who's paying? Like they're going out of their way. Like your kid's that dumb. Like they couldn't even get into like USC. Like that's like, I don't even think they have a bar on how you can.
I don't even know.
Everyone that applies gets in pretty much. It's like, oh, you couldn't get into UFC? Like what? That's shocking. I don't know. Yeah, that was the funny ones for me. But
well, since the topic of blood got you feeling so comfortable, can I parlay into the next topic?
Oh God, she brings
Talk
it
about
up
blood again. Yeah.
Yeah, in a different context, that sounds good.
All right, fine. But
someday I'll have 9 daughters, and you'll be like, ha ha ha, sucker, and I'll be like, yeah.
If you had 9 daughters, I would be buying like stock in Playtex just because you'd be buying tampons all the time.
Okay, next story. Theranos.
You missed me, didn't you?
The number one reason our podcast gets found on the internets
is because of your name.
Because of Theranos.
Well, I'm going to go to Theranos in just a second.
Oh, sorry.
But it is blood related. So, there is a company based out of Austin, surprisingly, called Everlywell. The founder is a gal named Julia Cheek, who, I mean, I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunately coincidental for her that she's young, blonde-haired, founder of a tech company, where the premise of her company is that people can order their own blood tests. So, I mean, when you think about an issue right now, like you're wondering, you know, how am I doing on my vitamins? How am I doing on my minerals? How am I doing on my, you know, fats? Anything like that. First of all, you have to circumvent the whole clinical process. You got to make the appointment, go to the doctor, explain the situation, tell them you want the test, go get the test done, then come back to the doctor to have the test results discussed with you, if at all, because, you know, a lot of times they say, oh, if it's negative, you won't even hear from us sometimes, I think. So in any event, Everlywell, the premise of that is that people can order their own blood tests and have any of those questions answered. So if you're curious about your vitamin deficiencies, hormone levels, even STDs, what Everlywell does is they pair you up with a physician to discuss the results afterwards, and you can talk to them about getting a prescription or talking about, you know, therapies or certain courses of treatment that you can pursue. And then there's a social media aspect to this too, that once you get your results, you can share it on Instagram. So, I mean, yes, is there this is too much information, too much sharing component? Maybe. I mean, I don't know if everybody needs to know who's ovulating at what particular point in time. But the fact that this company, it seems to be experiencing a lot of growth, and again, being based in Austin, there's been a lot of, I guess, optimism about it being away from Silicon Valley, away from the coasts, essentially, and just being its own thing, doing its own thing. And Julia Cheek is obviously having to combat the Elizabeth Holmes image. You know, she's young, she's blonde. It's a founder
How
of
are they testing the blood?
Now they're testing the blood by sending it off to,
But how are they getting it out of your body?
I don't know. It's a good question.
That's a key question. Because
See,
that's what screwed up the last one, right?
But that's different from my question.
What
My
was your
question
Yeah.
is how do we assure the security of whose blood that is? So, and maybe that does parlay into how they get the blood. So if I'm going to sneak like blood off of you,
Why would you do that?
maybe I want to know if you're ovulating.
Well, I am, first of all. And second of all, what? Like, so they would want to make sure. I'm trying to think of a context when you would steal someone's blood somehow without them knowing to test them on stuff.
I think it's possible.
Like, I mean, you can do that with your spit too, right? With the 23andMe and
Right? You talked about that
like
before
you can,
too.
I could spit in a tube and you could send it in. They might be like, "What? You're Jewish and Irish or something?" And you'd be like, "Yeah." Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So the two questions I would have, because this is where Elizabeth Holmes went not good, not well. What's this girl's?
Julia Cheek.
What's her academic background? That's critically important.
Mm-hmm.
Elizabeth Holmes was a Stanford dropout
Mm-hmm.
who was tackling something that is very medically complex,
Yeah.
like testing blood.
Mm-hmm.
And so most people who have a scientific doctor background
Right.
can look at that and say, she doesn't know enough about this. Now, if this
Yeah.
new girl's in a similar boat, she either would have great advisors, a great advisory board,
Yeah.
or she's got that background somehow.
Okay, and I haven't fact checked this, but here's the theory.
Mm-hmm.
What if Everlywell, Julia Cheek's company,
Mhm.
is just the broker to make all this happen? So what if they have their own testing facilities that you would then go to, or even contract them out? But she's the one, rather than you have to go to the doctor to order it. You essentially say, this
Yeah.
is the test I want done. Here, where do I go to get my blood taken? Go get the results
That's
back.
different, yeah. The
I could
whole,
see how that model would work.
Yeah,
But I see what you're saying.
that model can kind of work. What they're trying to solve, right, is that is the amount of blood you need. That solves
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
That's what solves it, right?
No, I think this is a regular amount of blood. This is like a regular blood draw type.
So then you'd have to go to a doctor. Yeah.
Or their clinics
Yeah, if they own clinics.
somehow.
You'd partner, though.
maybe-
You wouldn't own a clinic.
Am I delusional, or am I remembering that perhaps there was a way for people to draw their own blood as well?
You'd think that would be part of it. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
The only way that makes sense and that it gets the news attention is that
Right.
the people are doing it themselves, which can only be from a finger prick unless they somehow figure out how to get everyone to be able to draw their own blood with an IV, which is not like, I mean, nurses get trained for months on how to do that, right?
Yeah, which
It's probably
oh
not
God.
that hard to do, but I mean, I have had
Ugh.
friends that they can't find the vein and then they get bruises all over their arm. Like,
Ugh.
that can go really wrong, right? And
Even
you can even mess people's veins up if you
Yeah.
like poke it wrong.
Even thinking about that just makes me.
I mean, I don't love, yeah, but so then it's like, okay, how do you get it from a finger prick? And that was Elizabeth
Yeah.
Holmes' whole thing was, you can do everything yourself.
Right.
They send you the kit, you prick your finger, you put the little thing on,
Yeah.
takes the blood. So if they said, yes, that's how we do it, but we just need 10 of those little ones,
Mm-hmm. Then maybe it's
not impossible.
Yeah.
Not impossible. So
But-
my point is, it's possible. It's just like, it's not realistic.
Well, I still think it's something to keep on our radar
Mhm.
because, this poor gal's trying to combat the whole, like, oh, you're just the next Elizabeth Holmes. And she's trying to say, like, listen,
I'm going to
no,
scope
I'm
her out. I
different.
haven't really had a chance to look yet, but sounds interesting.
If you can get her to come on as a guest, I would be forever grateful.
Wow.
Let's
All
make that
right.
happen.
I'll remember that.
Yeah, just a small little favor to me. See if Julia would come on.
My
Yeah.
homie J Cheek.
There you go. Oh my God, you got her street name.
We already
and
have
all that.
nicknames, so.
But speaking of Elizabeth Holmes,
Yeah.
she's awaiting trial.
Yes, she is.
Yeah, in her super fancy, I think it was in a super fancy condo or super fancy apartment because her home has
I'm
been
sure
taken
it's-
away.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and the preliminary reports are saying that she's doing rather well, handling the pre-trial proceedings in a rather quote-unquote chipper fashion, which as a female professional, I take a little offense by people characterizing her demeanor as chipper. So if she was a man, and he was, kind of like, all right, this doesn't bother me, this doesn't
confident,
faze.
they'd say.
Yes.
He seems confident going into it.
Yeah, and I mean, she may be the biggest fraudster on,
Chipper just sounds
yeah.
like that. You know what?
And
She's all chipper about it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, her lawyers are good.
Right.
And she's confident in herself. Because she actually did have a pretty cool idea. It's like the friggin' FYRE Festival. Like, everyone's shitting on her like she just ruined the world. And it's like, she was onto something.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. And this stuff happens. Now, it's more the negligence that's scary. And
right.
when you're telling people they have cancer and they don't. Or you're telling people they don't have cancer and they do.
That's the word, yeah.
That's where it's sketchy, right? I mean,
Right.
as far as I know, there were people that actually got chemo that didn't
when they
need
didn't need it.
because of her.
Yeah.
And I heard that they brought in some high-level healthy, doctor person to kind of audit everything or whatever, and they were like pushing her to disclose more, and she wasn't. And so they're
Really?
suggesting there still could be people that don't know. Still. Like, they didn't just issue a blanket statement being like, hey, anyone who's taken this test and gotten results, they're wrong. They have not. As far as I know, that does not happen. And there's still people, because now it's in a legal proceeding, right? So now they can't release certain information.
What's interesting about that is, let's say if there's a recall on something,
it's not a recall, though. That's the problem.
But I'm using that model as, this is how I as a consumer expect things to go. That if I was if I took part in some procedure or I bought something, that if there was some issue or some problem, that I would get some kind of notice, or there'd be some kind of, recall thing. And I give this to you in two contexts. Number one, when Aoife was first born, and I bought this awesome Graco car seat because it's the best car seat you can possibly buy, or so I was told. And then a few months later, there was some recall on the buckle. And I mean, I kept getting notices. I'm like, how do you guys even know that where I am? And I see it at the store I bought it from. Like, you gotta send these buckles in. We'll replace it they know. Like, somehow they know that I have this car seat and I need to take care of this buckle. And I mean, cars I get. Car recalls because they have your registration. But then also going back to schools and taking exams. So I took a bar prep course called Barbering. It's supposed to help you pass where I was in Florida, the Florida bar, and also the multi-state bar, which is, it tests your knowledge of the law, which is kind of applicable across the country. And there was, long story short, some scandal between competitors who provided these test prep courses. And I was magically sent a card saying, this is part of a class action. Do you want to opt in or opt out? And I said, if I don't do anything, that means I stay in. So I guess I won't do anything. And then about 3 years later, I got a check for like $25. Mind you, this course cost me like $2,000. But I was like, oh, that's nice. I mean, for a starving student, $25 is, that's dinner tonight. So how would people not be able to be reached? The people who have used the Theranos blood test.
Medical data is very confidential. So Theranos probably owns it, and now because it's in a legal proceeding, can't.
But how can there not be some governing regulating body that says, all right, everybody you've tested, you obviously
like the
know
FDA, or like who would that even be? I don't even know.
I don't know.
I
But
think it would be the FDA probably, because they're like approving whether stuff's safe for people, right?
Or I mean, who's the consumer protection?
The FCC.
Yeah.
Or the FTC, sorry, the Federal Trade Commission.
Federal Trade Commission.
No, but they're doing more like going after like fraud from a investor. Is that more what the FTC is doing? It's more like investor fraud and like.
Yeah. I don't know. Somebody's got to look into this, because if I can get notification about a car seat buckle, I'm sure that if somebody may or may not have been misdiagnosed with cancer, I mean, it seems
tricky
like a
when
big
it's a
deal.
private company, though. But yeah, no, I see your point. You'd think that they would be able to get access to that data. But who knows what she did with the data, right? If she deleted it, if she
now
is hiding it, if she...
Yep.
Again, I think what they're probably doing is they're to avoid additional liability.
Yeah.
They're saying, oh, let's not reveal too many people that got this screwed over by this, because then we're going to have even more lawsuit coming at us, right? I mean,
right.
If I were them, that sounds horrible, but if I were them, I wouldn't want to release more, right? From a legal standpoint. I would be like, oh, if we don't have to, like, at the end of the day,
yeah,
a couple people die, you make some money.
All right,
I'm just
Elizabeth.
kidding. I'm just kidding. But, like, I think that's kind of how people at that level look at it, right? It's like the Teflon thing. It's like people die, but we got to make ours, you know?
Yeah. No, I
don't know.
I get it. I mean, I don't agree with it. Obviously, I agree with what you're saying, but I also don't agree with it. But
when's the trial?
I think it's just, we're on the doorstep of it. I think it's just, like, if it's not days away, it's maybe weeks away, but.
She's going to get the Martin Shkreli treatment.
You think so? Do you think she's going to be making, like, fettuccine in her?
Oh, she'll be, like, live streaming
cell?
it and friggin' buying Wu-Tang albums and
from her penitentiary.
Wearing
the penthouse in the penitentiary.
Orange-colored turtlenecks.
Orange is the new.
Match the prison outfit. Because she's got to, she's got to maintain this whole Steve Jobs thing.
Yeah. Oh, poor Steve. If he knew that she was misappropriating his image. Rolling in his grave.
Who knows? I mean, he might have invested in her.
Oh, good God. Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
She fooled a lot of really, really smart rich people. A lot of them.
She convinced someone to marry her. She's engaged now.
Like since
all
that stuff happened?
The articles that I'm reading now that are all saying she's awaiting trial. She's living happily in her apartment with her fiance.
Let's Google this.
As she's chipper.
We got to Google. Oh, yeah, that chipper. How dare she be chipper? Elizabeth Holmes. Fiance. Oh, it doesn't come up. William Evans. Who are you, William? Oh, he looks very nonchalant. 5 fast facts you need to know.
Oh, okay. What are the 5 fast facts?
The first fact is just that their engagement was announced on Vanity Fair. Okay, come on, guys. Okay, Evans is a hotel heir for the Evans Hotel Group.
Okay.
Which his grandparents founded in 1953. He has worked at startups in the past, though his grandmother Anne is the current chairman emeritus of the company, and many of his family members work for the hotel. So he's some rich...
Hotel heir.
Yeah.
All right, fact number, 4 now?
Hotel Group, let's see here. The publication reports that Evans Hotel Group grosses $100 million annually. Not a bad young guy to meet.
Do you want me to make an intro for you?
I mean, he's on LinkedIn. It says per his LinkedIn, he's a manager of special projects at Luminar Technologies.
Well, if his fiance is going away to the penitentiary, I'll
wouldn't you love to be on a fly on that wall of like, she's just playing this totally cool, like she could give a shite. Like she's like, oh yeah, babe, once we get through this trial, these people will fuck right off. We'll be building the next Theranos.
Yeah.
Like, she might be like that.
She might be.
She might be like a little bit like, yeah, well, we killed a couple people, but we were trying to change the world. Well, it's like Fire Festival. Yeah, we left some people stranded. By the way, Ja Rule's working on another Fire Festival.
No, stop. Is that for real?
That's for realsies.
Because he hasn't learned his lesson? Because he
basically
got away with the last one?
Well, he basically said, look, I was on that ride too. I got screwed over too. Like, I'm trying to just do innovative, cool stuff, and this guy kind of screwed us over. I mean, I don't care enough.
Wow. Well, speaking
Should
fire,
we?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm excited about this next story.
Yeah.
Lead us in.
So I just saw, of course, we know that a lot of people owed money after investing in the greatest party that never happened.
And no influencer stepped up to just pay out that money.
Which is what you proposed. And I think it was what a great way to save your skin. You know?
That was the phone case, not. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah.
He
right?
who smelt it.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And even if a couple of them just got together, pooled their resources, and just said, "Listen, we want to help make things right." Even
the one's married to Justin Bieber, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
That's the only reason people know. Everyone's like, "Oh, she was a model."
But
Nobody
doesn't that
knew who she
reflect
was.
her decision making?
Oh, she's also a bald one, by the way. So it's not like she couldn't afford it before.
Right.
Anyways.
But the way they're trying to raise some capital to reimburse investors is by putting official FYRE merchandise on the auction block. So you too can own your very own official FYRE hats. There were, get this, there were FYRE cell phone chargers, and I'm like going to put up a bunch of photos of this merch. How ironic that you can like charge your phone while you're on this horrible deserted island with not even flushing toilets. Like they should have had FYRE generators is what they should have had. Like FYRE branded generators to put like heat or not heat, but AC and lighting and plumbing into these places. That's what they should have done.
They could have got full Supreme and had like FYRE logs. They could have had FYRE matchbooks. They could have had FYRE those straw things for African people so they can drink through muddy water. They could have had they could have really, just saying, gone a way more Supreme-y route with this.
They should have.
I'm going to be at that auction.
Yeah.
Online.
Well, they won't even
buying
release,
that merch.
And I should make this disclaimer first. They will not release the photos of what's going to be sold, but this is my best guess because probably nobody bought anything. So I feel like whatever I can find online is going to be the merchandise that you can get. You can get official T-shirts, tags still on it, and everything.
Wow.
And you know those access wristbands that were supposed to be your all access to everything? And
I wonder if there's still money on them. Oh my gosh! Can you imagine you got like an NFC bracelet that you'd like pay?
Yeah.
Just saying.
So that's some stuff to be looking for. And I was kind of looking to see like what is the price point that these things would go for. So I did further research, which was probably not the best use of my time, but I was so fascinated.
She admits it. Yep.
Yeah. I was just so fascinated. Like, what are people going to be paying for this stuff?
Probably more than they should.
Well, I did find on eBay that there is not the same access wristband that I just showed the audience. That was an orange one. There's a black one that has been
rare.
Well, it was going for like $75, but it's been worn, and you can see it's got like white stains on it. I won't even speculate.
Icing probably from the cinnamon bun there. Yeah.
Right. So
a lot of guys like cinnamon buns. So just don't ask any more questions.
Uncomfortable silence. No, but I mean, so
I'd buy it. I've bought stuff from weird auctions before.
Like what?
Like Steve Jobs' bathrobe.
That's right, you did buy that. Yeah, well, if you want your very
less controversial, well, still kind of controversial. If you Google Steve Jobs' bathrobe, because you don't believe me or something, there's like 100 articles on that the fact that it was for sale, and I am the guy. There wasn't like 9 of them.
All right,
there was one of them.
Let's really let's
and I got it, and it fits me perfectly. By the way,
let's get down to really how on earth can that ever be verified to be authentically Steve Jobs' bathrobe? I mean, honestly, how can that be authenticated?
Came from his residence. His residence was
according to who?
His residence. It's like the Michael Jackson residence, and it's like they own estate, they own everything.
Oh, the estate.
Yeah,
sale.
His estate owned it, and then sold it through Christie, which is like Christie's, a really well-known, famous auction for celebrities.
Yeah, Christie's auction house.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe he never. I mean, it's definitely worn by a taller male. They may have just found some random vintage Christian Dior bathrobe. That's the other thing. I think they had receipts from him saying he bought it.
Oh, all right. Well, that's.
I also have 2 of his electric razors.
Really?
Yeah, Eltron razors.
Anything else?
That's it. 2 Eltron razors and a bathrobe.
I think you could probably start your own museum of like interesting auction buys. The Steve Jobs artifacts.
We'll mark the calendar for FYRE Festival merch because I am all over that. I need that in my life already.
See, I would be in it if there's handbags and shoes, as you know. But
Fire shoes?
Yeah, I don't think that there are those things available at this particular auction. So I'll cheer you on.
All right.
But, yeah, but that's about it. So.
Oh, you know what would have been a hot seller? FYRE Birks. Birkenstocks? FYRE Birks? With like the FYRE logo imprinted in them.
I
Call
won't
me
disagree
up,
with that.
Ja Rule.
No, and one other thing I was wondering is, you know, those the hurricane tents. Do you think there's going to be hurricane tents there for auction?
No.
Because those actually.
No, they're probably used in hurricanes right now for poor people.
Yeah, but did FYRE not buy them off of some source, or were they just borrowing them? I mean, are those not?
All I can say is if there's a FYRE hurricane tent we can buy,
Yeah.
we're buying it.
That's
And
what
we're
I'm
putting it
saying.
on my patio.
That's what I'm saying.
We're having our own little FYRE festival on the patio.
Yeah.
And people be like, this looks like the
And it
hurricane shelter.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Didn't you see the documentary on Netflix? Same one. Remember when all the people were running and screaming and there was rain?
Mm-hmm.
I even put a wet mattress in there, just like the real thing. I'm going to have like a Burning Man type
Oh my God.
thing
Yes.
someday.
You could sell the FYRE experience. You weren't at FYRE Festival? Well, you could try it yourself for a whole lot less.
On Jordan's patio.
I think you're onto something.
Well, I'm going to buy that merch. So if in a few weeks I come in, you're going to see me with that merch on.
That's all right with me.
All right.
Yeah. But final thought about the and you reminded me by talking about the NFC wristbands. So
Oh, yeah.
just so happens, and I have to confirm this, but one of our viewers has the NFC chips implanted in his hands.
Both hands.
Both hands.
Might we add.
Yes. So no pressure at all, Sean. Talking to you. I would like to see if we can get him on board, because I personally am fascinated with that. After we talked about this, and I mean, we clearly were of two different schools of thought. And maybe I just need to be educated, because after seeing your reaction to it and after hearing from Sean.
Well, and Sean did exactly what I would have done with it, which is unlock your apartment or your fob at your door. And then he said he unlocks his car with it.
But I have so many more questions.
Brilliant.
So many more questions. So I am going to see if we can get Sean
Get him on?
as our guest.
Cool.
And you two can educate me. Like, really, this is going to be for my own edification and for everybody else who was on Team Joanne on this, like, what is it, subdermal and NFC things. Maybe you're going to change a lot of minds, but
They put them in dogs, right? They put them in dogs, like those little,
That's
it's like
not
the
the
same
same.
thing.
No.
It is the same.
No, it
It's
is
the
not the
same
same.
thing.
No, it is not. No.
It is.
No,
and
it is
then you
not.
scan it with an NFC
No.
thing. It's the same thing.
If dogs could speak, I'm sure at least half of them would say, "Do not put
Look,
that thing in my."
pretty good. Rowan.
Now you're just being ridiculous. Now you're being ridiculous.
good.
Of all the things you said today,
If you ask my little Finnegan if he
Yeah.
liked his little NFC chip, I think he'd say
you
he
would say
does.
no.
He would say no. Well, I'm trying to also convince a buddy of mine, Crystal Bell, comedian,
Yes.
to come on
Okay.
because he's hilarious. And more people need to.
I'd like to have a funny co-host for once. That would be great.
Wow.
What?
Yow.
I say it
work
because I know
there.
you can take it.
Yeah.
And I also have in mind, I spoke with a plastic surgeon friend of mine. who would
Finally going to get that work done.
Touche.
And
To talk about tech in medicine and ethics, with a lot of the with a lot of the procedures that he
interested.
does. He does a lot of research and clinical, both sides. So, with that, I think that's enough of a teaser, huh? What do you say?
I like it. We'll see y'all next week. Episode 8.
Yes, lucky number
We'll
8.
figure out what we're talking about next week.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
I was like, why am I saying bye right now? I was like, I've never